Welcome back to the Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. This week we'll be covering potentially the best new art in a new manga all year, maybe the last 12 months even, with O Great's Kaijin Fugeki. We're also going to see the resolution of two major story arcs, first with the end of the Takamura fight in the museum from Sakamoto Days, chapter 167, and then the end of the first major story arc in Ghost Fixers. All that, manga news, lots of anime news, and more coming right up. Hello again, my name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and this week I am joined again by the great to my O Gautam.
Hello, hello.
That is, of course, a reference to O Great, the author of our first feature this week. This is Kaijin Fugeki, or Kindled Spirits, by, if you are not familiar with O Great is the author-artist of Air Gear, and he did the adaptation of Bakemonogatari that ended, I think late 2022 is when that ended. One of the best working artists in manga, I would say.
The art was phenomenal in this chapter. There's no doubt about that. It looked so good.
Yeah, I mean, this first spread, this first color spread here even is like, yeah, like that's a hand-drawn, like, unique spaceship that I have never seen, or, military ship, whatever we learned about later. But, so guys, when we will thread this, give me your thoughts on it before we go through it a little more step by step here. How did you feel? What did you like about Kaijin Fugeki?
Yeah, so I think I am ultimately very, very positive on Kaijin Fugeki. It was good, right?
Yeah.
The art, of course, like we talked about, was fucking phenomenal. It looked great at every single moment. There were unique panels, and
interesting ideas, different takes
use of
on
perspective.
Yeah.
All of it worked. But let's talk about the story, because I think this is maybe where Air Gear was maybe the most contentious, right? Mm-hmm. Air Gear was very fun, but when it got serious, the story kind of fell apart. It's hard to take it too seriously, or as seriously as the manga wanted to at the time.
Yeah, I can see that maybe even in this first chapter where it's like I don't know how to describe it. The times where they tried to go shonen power, friendship, power up, I'll protect everyone were sort of like the weakest, and then everything else was really good. So
yeah, it's weird. I think the shonen moments of it where the main character reveals their power and one shots the enemy I've seen it a million times before, so that part is less important to me. It's kind of just a known quantity that I expect. But I think everything surrounding that, like, that part makes that part cool. So I loved their little rivalry. The thumb war scene was maybe one of my favorite moments in the chapter.
Yes, yeah, that was a good one. The action this is great. So
I love that it established both of the characters' kind of bromance, and the stakes were getting a drink from the fridge, which was way less effort than the thumb war itself.
But goofy shit like that is fun. So.
Yeah, but it's great. I think that established their characters really well and their dynamic really well. And the thumb war was very cool. Like, the panels of the thumb war they were thumb war to get a drink from the fridge, of course. And it started out like a normal thumb war. And then they started, vaulting, trying to win, so they went full try hard on this. And
they're running on the ceiling and
running on the ceiling, using it as leverage, neck holds, all very fun. And it showed kind of their physical aptitude as well. Yeah,
great facial expressions too on this panel on the left here. This is Jin, the light-haired boy, and Gao, the dark-haired guy, who we learn later is British Japanese, I think is what they tell us. But yeah, again, the intro scene I think here is great because you immediately get that these guys they're bros, they're comfortable, but they kind of have this competitive rivalry. They're it immediately shows us with a thumb war that these guys are action heroes, right? They're these are fit, capable, fighting body able to people. So
I think it also showed kind of like each of their skill sets, where the black-haired guy is raw power, and the white-haired guy is more dexterous. Or like, I don't know. He's supposed to represent and look like a frog, essentially, and I think it kind of shows his froggy nature in this fight.
Oh,
quote
yeah.
unquote fight. Yeah.
Yeah. But the cast of characters here, I thought they're really diverse, really unique. I like all their designs. This is Micaiah, I think is how you would say this name.
Yeah.
And she is I don't remember what type this. She's like a Kudere? I don't know. She's one of the, she's like, oh, I won't bother you, but I'm like desperately in love with you at the same time. She's like, aren't you hot? She's like, oh, don't mind me. He's like, I'm used from the heat from being stationed in Ghana. She's like, as if you're just not wearing anything under my uniform, and I can't bear to add another layer.
I actually don't know anything about her archetype, because she is very much just I'm not wearing anything under this uniform, to I wish I had a shirt and I regret not bringing a shirt.
Yeah,
which is
it's
her
really weird
conflict. It is very stupid and goofy and doesn't tell me anything about the character, but I still like it. I don't know. It's like
it does tell you a little bit, because it does tell you like, oh, she's very much like, I'm not going to bother you. I'm going to sort of like be a wallflower, a dormouse or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, I am burning up. I am very hot. I wish I was wearing less clothing or no clothing or whatever. This to me,
I guess that's a good point.
This to me feels like the influence of Nisoi Isin's Bakemonogatari characters. This is something that like 2 or 3 of the characters of Bakemonogatari would do or act like or say. I think that this sort of feels like an influence from their past, from O-Grade's past work doing the Bakemonogatari adaptation. So, and then we meet maybe the most interesting character design I've ever seen, that I think, if this series takes off, which I think it's going to be pretty popular, we're going to see some fan art.
The yin and yang girl?
Yes, this 2-headed Misasagi, who is this 2-headed, she's like a priestess of some kind we see later on. And then we also meet kind of some of the other friends who are, I don't know, I assume these people are like high school age-ish, as classic. But yeah, so this is just like, for a character design reference point, it's like, hot girl, obvious, 2 heads, weird, put them together, interesting. It creates an interesting combination, I think. Whether you can't say whether it works or not, depending on who you are, but it is at very least a very interesting combination of features there.
And there's like a piece of dialogue that said the only thing we usually agree on is that we like the cherry tree this particular way, which it like implies that they don't agree on most things, which makes sense. It's yin and yang, right? That's what their design,
I think, definitely based on, one has dark hair, one has light hair,
and they have different colored, like the dark haired one has a white headband and the white haired one has a black headband.
Visual design, again, the art design in all of this is great. So we get a little bit of, what was this guy's name? Gao, right? Yeah, Gao. We get a little bit of Gao's talking about his mother, which we'll get a little bit later, but he kind of talks, he's like, how do I describe her? And we just get a panel of him thinking of this like vicious, like tiger spirit thing. And he actually doesn't say anything about it, which I think is great sort of visual storytelling. I love the way he's like pulling on his lip here. Like that's, I don't know if I've ever seen someone in manga like draw something like that, but that's like a real thing that people do, right? Like they're thinking they'll like pull on their lip or play with their lip or something. And I like that he's like doing that. He doesn't say anything, and he like thinks of a lion when he's thinking about his mom. That's just really cool. Like, I don't know, gives characterization to Gao, to his mother.
It's like a specific character tick.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's a cool, like, oh yeah, that's like a real thing that nobody ever just like draws. We then get sort of our first kind of the actiony part. We get this first spirit that shows up, which I think is called Yaroka, because they keep saying it, and it's something about the because they're all playing in the sort of river here, and God, like the art in this series is so good. This Yaroka spirit is like, we learn a little bit later, I guess we can kind of skip to it, that essentially this is like a flood spirit, or like a flash flood spirit is what we're told later. And essentially what this series seems to be from chapter 1 is that it is about These people kind of fighting back against things that people used to think were natural disasters, things like tornadoes, hurricanes, flash floods, um, uh, maybe stuff like avalanches, things like that, were actually caused by these sort of maybe not evil spirits, but malevolent in a way that like they are causing damage, or maybe they're out of balance or something. Um, and so this flash flood spirit kind of shows up and does her thing, and yeah, it was about to cause a flash flood. So that's kind of the first thing that we end up fighting against here. This Yaroka spirit. Um,
And yeah, I think essentially it talked about how kind of just nuclear war that humanity has gotten into in this universe. It's like a World War III where the world kills itself, or humans kill themselves. After said apocalypse, the remaining humans are assaulted by natural disasters that manifest themselves as spirits. So the twist is that like there are no natural disasters. In fact, there are just invisible spirits attacking humanity with quote unquote natural disasters.
Yeah, this page kind of tells us like we used to not be able to see them, and then like one day they began to reveal themselves, taking on visible to the naked eye. In the olden days, they were called natural disasters. Yeah, so it's like things that used to be natural disasters now we can see the spirits. The spirits revealed themselves, and so we've created, as we'll see in a little bit, a cool mecha to fight them, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's just like a cool twist.
Yeah.
It seems like, well, Japan itself gets a lot of natural disasters, so I think this is kind of like a cool premise for the Japanese audience. I mean, we do too, of course, but like,
yeah,
I think essentially this feels like. Well, let's talk about the themes later because we'll see more on that.
Yeah, we'll go through this real quick. So, this guy who's talking and this sort of explaining stuff right here, lore dumping, says, here's the important thing, Yaruko-sama, this flash flood spirit, didn't descend upon the town because it rained. It's the other way around. It rained because the villagers incurred the wrath of Yaruko-sama. So essentially it's, we think a tornado is caused by, winds going this way, that way, and in reality they are. But in this world, it would be like, no, those winds were blown that way because you made, Tornado-sama mad, right? So, yeah, so then we have Gao here calling for Micaiah to do this prayer thing. We get a flashback to British Empire Eastbourne Defense Line, Fort Ordnance Tower 202, which is like very non-specific where this is. But again, like a really gorgeous, and we've talked in the past about converting real life pictures into background manga panels. Lots of people do it. Lots of good artists do it. It's really interesting. I'm pretty sure this is like a fully hand drawn.
I don't think. Tower. Yeah, that's what I think.
Like this is not a converted picture, and it's fucking insane how good this is. Like
it looks really good.
It looks real. Like, and the angle is cool, and the depth of field is awesome. Looking out onto this bay. And we essentially get Gao and his mom. This is where his mom kind of, which in classic O-Grade has just the most massive tracts of land I've ever seen.
Yeah. She is a babe. Yeah. But
she could be 21. She could be 17 in some anime or manga, or she could be 45, right? I think in this one she's, I don't know, 30s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get her. They are attacked by Catherine, the Knight of Cyclones. Another insane panel. This is like number 6 we've had in this series in chapter 1 so far. They essentially are, they call it a cyclone because that's what the Japanese call hurricanes. We would call it a hurricane in North America here. But yeah, but really cool.
Oh, do we? Okay, yeah. I didn't know that there were hurricanes and cyclones.
Yeah, a cyclone rotates the other. No, is a cyclone maybe Southern Hemisphere hurricane? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Get in the comments if I'm wrong. It's also cool to think of, if you think of it's a hurricane.
Cyclone.
Well, yeah, and if you think about the eye of the hurricane is like a thing you hear about, and this like cyclone spirit has a giant eye in it. Yeah, like there's lots of really.
I didn't put that together. Yeah, that's cool.
I just did in my mind, and it's awesome. Yeah, again, some excellent art. It like creates little minions. It like washes out the thing. Some awesome stuff. Again, here's another. This one might be converted from digital assets. It's hard to tell. This town, I don't know. It could be hand drawn though. It's hard.
That's a little stretch, so I could see it, but
yeah. But anyways, just like towers of water. And his mom is saying like humans are powerless. He's like, Gao, like take the cat, take Miata. He's like, leave now, go to Japan. Clearly something is important in Japan. And they get on this like absolutely sick spaceship that we saw in that very first color panel, right? That was crashing into Japan.
Yeah.
And they take off. It's funny. It's just got like a giant British flag on the bottom.
I
And
love it.
yeah, so we don't. I will call this out because this is pretty standard manga anime fare. We don't see the mom die, so mom's probably alive somewhere. That would be my guess. Maybe she's dead though. I don't know. But yeah, so then we get
Yeah, I think you're right. They talk too much about her.
and she seems
earlier
really
on,
she's
too.
she's really important early on. So maybe maybe she's taking control of a spirit and she's bad or something. I don't know. My
Who
guess
knows,
if this continues is we'll see her again. But so we're back to the present and we're gonna fight off this this flash flood spirit. Some weird stuff happens. So the Jin, the other boy, like they were around a shrine under a tree earlier. He like sort of breaks into the shrine and grabs the like frog. I think it's like a frog rock statue or whatever. Like breaks it apart and starts crunching it up. We get this weird tech head thing that goes in around the twin-headed girls and like whisks her off. I don't know. This is where it just is like, well, it's just going insane now. Like wild shit is happening like for the rest of the chapter. It's just like, what the fuck? Like you can't go 2 pages without like something absolutely insane happening.
Quick thought on Jin's thing, right? He pulls it out of a shrine, breaks this frog statue, and the old man's like, "This is blasphemy. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "These gods didn't protect this land from flash floods. If they're not going to pull their weight, like, I'll do it.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out."
Which is a cool lore implication of like, well, if there's evil spirits causing flash floods and hurricanes and whatever, are there good spirits that are supposed to be protecting us, and where are they? Is their power dormant? Because it seems like here, like they make use of the power of the spirit, that maybe should be protecting the town below or protecting the river or whatever you want to say. So potential lore expansion there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get a little bit more lore dump here. It's like, thanks to the discovery of psychomagnetics, a knowledge gained from researching the nights, which I think are sort of what are called these like attacks, allowed mankind to construct a technological system combining the new and the old, using their bodies as vessels to invoke the gods, like we just talked about. They meld and become gods themselves. A shamanistic is what I think is actually the right word there. Shamanistic is whatever. I don't know. A shamanistic ritual performed by those known as Miko or Fugeki. So here's part of our title, right? The title is Kaijin Fugeki. Kaijin is like monster. Fugeki is shaman. So they translated it here as kindled spirits, but this is essentially like monster shaman is like kind of the direct translation, I guess, of that title.
I just gotta say, what a cool fucking aesthetic. Basically, it's like a holy power paladin-like vibe mixed with advanced technology. So it's like it's Magitech, like we talked about earlier.
I was going to say, we were talking about this before, but like Magitech is like severely underused in fantasy. Like most things are either going full sci-fi or full fantasy. Fantasy is much, much more common, I think, in manga.
And it's not even. I love that it's not even just Magitech. It's like holy power. So it's like divine.
Yeah, it's like a shaman, like power of the earth spirits kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a very cool aesthetic.
It's very cool. Yeah, and this art is great here. And this weird, the sort of classic Japanese like Oni mask and these 2 dancing girls. And we get, another sick panel. And they're basically talking about like, oh, I did meet these guys are very bromancy for the rest of the series. He's got this little frog over his head. I didn't even make that connection of like he's supposed to be like a frog man person until like the end, but yeah.
It's like I'm almost positive that he is supposed to look and be designed like a frog.
I think you're right, yeah. Because now that you say that, he has the kind of frog, kind of like dark under frog eyes. Yeah, the eyes are very drawn the way that sort of anime likes to do them. So, but a sick, just sort of like bromance panel. Again, we see the sort of twin-headed priestess girl be like, "Oh, sword of retribution, Kagura, fighter of embers," and we get again this sort of cool like ancient, these katanas have been made in Japan like this for like a millennia, like literally 1,000 years, and it's like. But it's like in an EVA launch pad, which is like fucking sick. Like I love Evangelion.
That's so cool.
This,
yeah,
like
a holy
this reminded
blade
me
being launched.
Like literally, you could take out this giant sword here and put it in EVA, and it would be like, oh yeah, that's like the EVA launch pad. So that's
and this
cool.
is a cool. Like I like the aesthetics on this panel with like the computer terminals and all that shit, and like
But also the like tassels hanging and the scrolls. Yeah.
And on the left, it says in like a very computer-like font, pray. You know?
Well, and this was maybe my favorite part of the series is they go through a series of pages here. I don't think they grabbed all of them, but I think they grabbed a lot of them where they go through and it's like pray, dance, fight. Like, yeah, it isn't all of them. Isn't pray?
It's
dance,
like a militaristic font, you know?
Yeah, it's very sort of simple and bold.
I like that.
But the cool thing I noticed here is the things they're going through, sort of like pray, dance, and all these other things there. They're going through the sort of like historical kind of shamanistic rituals that people would go through to pray to their gods, right? Like sacrifices, like, you know, a rain dance is like a, you know, a North American, Native American thing that was a prayer to bring rain, right? So they go through all of these pages saying like, here's how we invoke our spirits, invoke our gods in a very sort of like primalistic, paganistic kind of type of way. And, you know, and this dance panel, again, is awesome. And then we get to fight, which is, like, the sickest, like, okay, giant, like, 6-armed frog god, who, by the way, is flipping off the flash flood spirit. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't even notice.
Like,
That's
right in the
great.
middle of the page there, one of his hands is literally just flipping him off with this giant, like, mecha katana. And it just says fight on the page, like, this, yeah, like if you weren't in at the start of how sick this series looks, like the last 20 or so pages are just absolutely insane. It looks so good. It's so cool. And it's got like
great.
It's got like Great Wave of Kanagawa vibes down in the water that's coming up here. Like not exactly, but a little bit of that kind of
I wish there was like a few more pages, like maybe even one or two.
Yeah.
Just ending on so because it ended on fight and.
Yeah,
I wanted more.
This is the last page. Yeah.
The minor gripe. I thought it was a very good first chapter. I think. So the theme so far, given the main character's kind of defiance of God, I have to say it's like kind of a global warming type take where human beings caused a lot of problems and natural disasters are assaulting them from all sides. But also, it's like don't pray away your problems. Use quote unquote what God gave you here and take matters into your own hands. It's kind of like the adaptability of mankind altogether.
Yeah, for sure. Or sort of like a
fix your own problems kind of a thing.
Yeah, or like use the technological tools that we've advanced. Like don't forget about them, but also, you know, remember that the ancient practices also have value. Like don't toss away, you know, like where you came from and the history of your Japanese, you know, shamanistic sort of pagan god worship culture. Like, don't throw that away. That's important. But also use a giant techno sword to win. Like,
yeah, I think the distinction on the main character's disposition is that prayer itself won't do anything. Mm-hmm. It's
dance by itself doesn't work. Fight by itself doesn't work. But if you do all of them, then it'll work.
Exactly. Yeah. I respect that. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's super sick. These last couple of pages are just like some of the best. I don't know, like literally, I would say like if I was going to pick the top spreads of the year, you know, the first 6 months of the year, this is probably like 3 of the top 10 or 4 of the top 10 for me. And maybe like Dan to Dan wins another 2 or 3. Like, I don't know, like this final panel is awesome. And the opening panel here where the thing is crashing is sick. Like this is amazing.
It looks so good.
It looks so good. I'm really interested. I know you said that you wish there was more. I also I like when a chapter 1 tells a complete story, but at the same time, like I'm hooked and I'm in. I will.
That's why I wish there was more.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted
it's so
to read
good. You
more.
want to keep reading. Yeah. The most unfortunate thing about this is that it is on the K-Manga app for Kodansha, which is kind of a garbage app. So, we'll see. Honestly, it might be worth it to go through all the stress just to read this series.
So one thing is clear is that our Jin, our froggy-looking protagonist, is kind of a chosen one archetype, where
I think so, yeah.
He's the pilot of the Sword of Retribution, and also he's on a first-name basis with the priestess, where he speaks to them very casually, whereas everyone else calls them like Priestess Sama or something like that. Why is he special? Is what I'm curious about, and I guess that'll be answered later.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think with the theming things we were talking about, it seems to me like Jin, the light-haired boy, is more of the spiritual side, and then Gao, the other guy, is the half British guy, is like technical. So maybe it's like, again, it's sort of very on the nose of like, if we combine the technical dude and the spiritual dude, we get a thing that can fight the spirits. Like that's, again, very on the nose, but I think that's what they're going for, right? Is that the cooperation of these two guys is what makes fighting back possible, but one of them couldn't do it alone. So my read on it, kind of what I'm assuming, is that Jin is like is like connected to the spirits because he eats the frog statue, potentially summons the frog thing, and then Jin or Gao maybe is the like technical guy who like knows how to summon the sword or work the sword summoning Eva whatever build thing. So
or maybe he is there as like the fighter. He's like dexterous, but as we saw at the beginning. But I think like going by your theory, and I think that's like pretty. You're pretty right. I don't know. It seems that way. Maybe Jin is maybe Jin has faith and Gao doesn't, so he's a necessary component for the faith mech to work.
Yeah,
for
sure.
The god mech.
Yeah, I think we'll learn more about it. Hopefully next chapter.
That's just a guess, but it's fun speculating on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if this is planned to be monthly or weekly. I guess we will see in a couple of days if we get another chapter or not. With art like this, I would assume monthly, but oh great, who knows? Bakemonogatari I think was weekly while it ran, or maybe bi-weekly. Maybe this is bi-weekly.
I think Air Gear is weekly too, so I guess
Air Gear was weekly,
yeah.
But Air Gear I didn't look this good because it was 15 years ago or whatever, because O Grade has improved. So
towards the end, it really almost did a lot of parts.
I mean, O Grade is absolutely insane. Like,
just like monstrous artwork. No pun intended.
One of my favorite,
just a talent.
One of my favorite panels. Let me see if it pulls up if I just search it, because some of the panels from Bakemonogatari that he did are like absolutely. And there's one. It's not coming up. If you search O Grade Bakemonogatari panels, there's one of I think it's the white tiger, white lion spirit. There's just a picture of that, and it's just like that is the coolest. It's just one of the coolest tiger spirit drawings you've ever seen in your life. It is awesome.
I'm glad to see this guy doing original work, though. I think talent like this is wasted on adaptations. Even Bakemono, which is like widely revered.
Yeah, and he took some liberties and some expanses with Bakemonogatari. I haven't read the whole series, but I read a little chunk of it, and I have watched the anime and read only like 2 of the light novels. They're kind of hard to get through. They're strangely translated because Disoi Isin is a weird guy. But I'm a huge fan of the anime, and his adaptation of it was he made stuff different. He made it his own, and still stuck true. And I don't know. He's just like an amazing artist, like absolutely flawless artist. This is absolutely sick.
Agreed. All right, what do we got next on the list?
Cool. All right. Let's see. I think next let's do Ghost Fixers.
All right.
This is chapter 9. This is a series by Yasuki Tanaka. We talked about chapter 1 of this a couple of weeks ago. We really liked it. I'm still enjoying it. Gautam, you still caught up, still enjoying it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought it had a way stronger first chapter than everything else, but I think it's solid.
Yeah, it's still just it's plugging along. I think consistent. This is sort of the like SCP Ghost Hunter. It has a really bad name. Ghost Fixers is like a lame name for what's essentially sort of like an SCP series. But
I think my issues are like, of course the name is bad, but who cares about that? I think it's like we're past that. What I have an issue with, I think is pretty clear in this chapter as well. But
let's go through it because I think we probably have the same issue of how this is kind of resolved. This is kind of the end of their first major arc. They had a friend who was invisible, slowly turning more invisible. They go to try to help her. They find a butterfly that makes people forget about her, but they remembered. And so this is kind of their coming up against these butterflies.
Or I guess it's revealed in this chapter. It's a flower. It's a flower.
The pollen of the flower we get. Yeah.
It basically it's not just forgetting. It erases this person or whatever it pollinates, or whatever the pollen touches, from existence altogether.
Like from reality. Like no one
From
remembers
reality.
them. They never existed. So.
Exactly, yeah.
Some fun stuff though. I really like the tools that they have. The girl's briefcase. She like throws it out and is like, eat as many butterflies as you can. She's like, and give me something to attack with. And so it like spits out a grenade, which it's funny that it gives
like 500 butterflies.
Yeah, it's like cool. 500 butterflies. It's just funny that it's like M65 grenade inflicts fatal damage in a 5-meter radius upon impact. And it's like translator's note, around 5.5 yards. It's like, yeah, a yard and a meter are almost exactly the same. Maybe translate it to feet next time. But yeah, so they fight off this thing, and we get a little bit. The one thing I did like about this, though, I admit that the true resolution of it didn't quite land for me, but what I do like is that we get these sort of flashbacks for both of our main characters, and they're sort of like their resolve, why they are pushing so hard against this stuff. Now, it isn't fully explained here. I think it will be later, obviously. But the guy here is like, I'll never run away. The girl is like, as if I'd ever lose. I think you maybe could have translated these a little differently and made it hit a little harder. These are kind of generic, kind of a generic way of putting things that could have been more emotional. But
I think you're right on both ends. Is that I appreciate that it explains their disposition and motivation, and despite being erased throughout the fight and forgetting why they're even there, they still kind of in their gut, in whatever part of them that pushes them forward, have their reason to keep going forward despite forgetting all of it. You know,
it's so built into their characters that they can't forget the thing that drives them so hard. So it's like, and I think that worked, and that's good.
But we do lose the emotional aspect because we don't know their backstory, so we can't relate.
Yeah, but it does make me interested to know. I'm now curious because we see them, we see him running away when he's younger, and we see her, with a gun, maybe, like having killed someone or having lost or something.
That's the unlimited Tommy gun SCP.
Yes, it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the thing that I guess bothers me about it is like, I will never run away and I won't lose, are like so generic and simple. I think you could have put a little bit of a writerly flair on these when you translate them or localize them, I guess I should say, to make it sound a little better. I
don't think it's like a verbiage issue for me. I think it's because I don't know. It feels like I don't know what the backstory is. It feels generic.
I guess
because
you're right. Yeah,
we've seen it so much before. Both of these motivations. So I think with context, maybe in the future, upon reread, this chapter will feel better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too. And maybe my comments on the sort of translation localization of it, maybe these are the right words, and I just don't know it because we don't know their thing. So yeah. But it's cool. They get through it. And I thought this was a great sort of page transition here, where it's, it shows the cut all knife, cut anything knife. Cut all blade. Going sort of through the flower, and then immediately the girl who previously was invisible kind of like wakes up in a field of flowers. This is a great transition here, and everyone's back, and we get a nice a nice color spread and a strange color spread with a cute colored hand-drawn girl back with a, like we're talking about converted pictures, a converted military helicopter behind her. Which in what appears to be a picture. Like I think the picture of that helicopter that's not a hand-drawn trees and stuff background. That's just a picture. So
it looks a little odd, but it's fine. It's fine. I think I'm ultimately positive on Ghost Fixers.
For sure.
Chasers? Ghost Fixers?
Ghost Fixers, yeah.
Ghost Fixers. I'm ultimately positive on it because I like the character dynamics a lot. The main character is interesting and refreshing. He is just like a cat and the chick is also okay.
The two play off each other really well too.
They play off each other fine.
Their dynamic is greater than their sort of individual fun characters, in my opinion.
I also came to like the side characters here, their classmates. All of the characters are interesting, which is like a very good sign.
Yeah, just good writing.
Think they are absolutely wasting their premise. And I think this is probably the fault that they are in a shonen magazine, so they have to fight things a lot.
Yeah.
But every SCP conflict so far has ended with them shooting the bad guy or cutting the bad guy.
Or both, yeah.
or both. Usually both. The last two were both. But either way, I feel like with the premise of these supernatural objects or phenomena, I would hope that there's like creative uses of their their ghosts or something like that to fix their problems instead of just like Leroy Jenkins run in cut, you know?
And you're more into the SCP stuff than I am, but I know that the few that I've read, the ones that I found most interesting are the ones where it's like, oh, we captured this beast and we're like teaching it to play piano. The ones where it isn't just like we go in and we
the
kill
murder
it.
monster one's so good. Yeah. That's like an all-time.
I think that's one that you sent me, but like, the ones that are more interesting are where it's like, oh, you have to like, in order to overcome, this like haunted picture, you have to like close your eyes and walk backwards and figure out how to get around it, as opposed to like cut it in half with the cut-all blade, shoot it with the infinity bullet gun. Like, so I definitely agree with you there. I hope that I think my concerns will be assuaged if in the next arc they do something more interesting, because I get opening your shonen series with
fights.
The chapter 1 is a fight and the first major arc is a fight. Cool, you get it. There is going to be action in this of some kind. If the next one is more of like a brain teaser thing, or we have to get creative, even if it's like we have to get creative and then like cut a little thing in half or like shoot a little thing once, like sure, I'm fine with that, right? Like we have to destroy a little thing, but let's get creative, let's get imaginative about it, because I agree. The sort of the way the weird ghosts are presented in this, like the bag and the sword and the gun and the butterflies / pollen things, they're all really interesting, and you're right, they have all been resolved with just shoot it or cut it. So
and there's some creative uses, like them hiding in the bag. I thought was great.
Yeah, that was a good
I love
one.
that. But I'm a little worried that our MC's reality bending power is physical related. Like he gets stronger and faster, and his ability is the cut-all blade. And like in description, the cut-all blade is cool, and so is the infinite Tommy gun.
Yeah.
But in application, it is just like every katana in a manga, and the gun is just like every other gun in a manga.
Yeah.
It's like they are just like every manga katana cuts through everything anyway, and every gun shoots.
Has enough bullets,
and
yeah.
I'm not tracking people's reloads in manga. I just assume that they have bullets. It's
yeah. Well, and also
So
and also the more interesting version, like to me, the most interesting thing about the cut-all blade was in the first, chapter 2, where they're talking about like when it was discovered and it like falls through an entire house and cuts it in half, and like when things go wrong with these is where it's more fun. And so far things haven't gone wrong with their sort of ghost assistants, right? The cut-all blade, the bag, the gun, they haven't nothing has gone wrong with them. And I think that SCP, these ghosts are more fun when it's like, oh, whoops, I dropped the sword and it accidentally, cut the school in half, including the principal. Oh no, that's scary and wild and weird.
And I think for these tools, you're right. And I think for the tools to be interesting, the ghosts themselves also have to be in like a position where the tools quirks are useful in this particular situation. Like this is something that's like invincible. Like it can't take damage. It's like, okay, there's the cut-all blade for that. Or like another ghost that requires unlimited bullets, the monsters so far haven't really, I think, like a normal gun, like someone with like a Glock could have killed a crab, and someone with, I don't know, a hatchet could have killed a plant monster. It didn't feel like it was due to their SCPs or creative uses of their SCPs, or sorry, ghosts. I keep saying SCPs.
Oh, we can call
ghosts.
them. People know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think they won because of that, and I feel like in a story specifically about SCPs, they should have more impact on how the fights go.
Yeah, it's sort of I've heard it described as like a lock and key problem, right? Where it's like, if your key can open every lock, then nothing is locked to you, right? And it's like,
right.
You have and every problem you come up against is a lock. And so if your key just fits every lock, that's not super interesting. So, and yeah, like you said, the two major challenges we've seen have just been things that can just be beaten by the keys that both of our protagonists have. So I would like to see them come up against something that is a lock that they do not have the key for, or they lose their keys and they have to figure out a creative way against to get around it. Because I do think that
or maybe only their keys work, because a bunch of keys could open these locks.
Yeah,
so
sure,
far,
exactly, yeah.
But yeah.
It's still a good series, good character stuff. I think you're right. I'm definitely curious to see where it goes from here for sure.
But I think, despite my complaints here, I attribute it to them being in a shonen magazine, and that if they went with an esoteric mindfuck SCP, like right off the bat that they can't beat with physical force, readers may be uninterested. They might get the axe, right?
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic that once they have a foothold, that they'll get weird with it. Because that's all I want. Get weird with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally telling an SCP story. I also would like things to get weird. And the first chapter got a little weird, but I mean,
the first chapter was pretty weird. They got weird.
Things have been weird. The boss of their organization like wears that weird like girl mask or whatever. Like there is some weird stuff in here.
There that he would like, if he didn't wear the mask, he would affect the people around him, because he's like what in the SCP is like a cognito hazard, where he mentally unintentionally fucks over people around him. No, that seems cool. There's like a lot of promising breadcrumbs, and I like the characters. So yeah,
it's a solid base. It's a solid base. I hope that they get weirder with it. I agree. They're in Jump Plus, so they can, I think, get weirder than if they were in a mainstream magazine. So I hope that they embrace that.
Me too. One more minor gripe. I feel like when they called up HQ and said, "Hey, what about the backup? Remember, we're going after this ghost," and they're like, "We have no memory of that." It's like, that never happened. It's like HQ should be believing them in this situation, given their like jobs in general, right? Like,
yeah, well, it could be a two-way street though, right? Like, what if the person on the other side of the phone is trying to trick you into sending people into a trap? So I don't know. I mean, it kind of goes both ways, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like, nope, never heard of it. Okay, see ya. It's just like a bit odd for having no backup, because in this situation, you would have to trust your agents first and foremost over like scientific proof, because of reality bending situations like this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fine. Who cares? Minor gripe.
Yeah, all right, cool. That's Ghost Fixers. That's Chapter 9, first major arc. Looking forward to more. Let's talk about Sakamoto Days 167 by Yuto Suzuki.
Best thing all fucking week, dude.
This was a wild one, yep. And so we're fighting Takamura in the museum. This is the last chapter of the arc, I would say. Violence warning, I guess here. We get, I don't even remember this guy's name. This is the volleyball guy.
Guy.
Yeah, he just gets cut in half, like right in front of X. This is the girl, right? The magnet girl, I think.
No, this is the guy with the hammer that changed shape. The video game
hammer guy. Yeah. Okay. He sort of bites into the, like, I think one of the swords that Takamura has. Then ends up sort of cutting into his face with it. So just a little bit of damage to him, but also gets cut down. And this is Sakamoto doing this sort of voiceover over. He's like, "We can't beat this guy. We're all dead." And then X kind of starts like remembering all his friends who are now all dead. Interesting, I think at the bottom left here, he has a thought of Rion, who I don't know what that means, and we're going to get a lot of implications at the end here.
Well, I think we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll get there. He starts kind of like going crazy and being under incredible stress. And so X is like, he's like, "Who are you? Get out." And then Takamura goes to cut him, and we get a sort of a flashback of people talking. He says, "To overcome extreme stress or shock experience and to deal with unbearable pain, X could have created a new personality." And then X cuts Takamura in half and starts muttering to himself in the exact same way that Takamura does. So this ties a lot of stuff together for me. This essentially tells me that, because the last time we see Rion in a flashback is Rion comes up against X, and everything we've been told is that Rion's a better fighter, And again, we now have sort of an internal version of Rion in X, like a personality. So, I mean, my thought is that basically the exact same thing happened, probably, right? Rion beats the shit out of him, is about to kill him. He's under incredible loads of stress. He then develops an alt personality that is exactly like her. And she's, well, one, you're just surprised by someone suddenly being exactly as capable as you are. And if you're not prepared for that, you lose. So, it's the exact same thing that happened to Takamura, I assume, happened with Rion.
I think Rion didn't beat the shit out of him, though. That's the weird part about. No, because he was like completely fine when Sakamoto shows up and finds her body.
Oh, maybe maybe there's some other stress that was there.
So
I don't know.
There's, and I think that like the flashback to Rion, I think shows that X valued her a lot, like as a friend, and I think the stress, I think it's like more so that he felt like he had to kill her for sure, and instead of like this Takamura situation is like a fight or flight type thing, where he needed it, but I think Rion's is more of like a logical manifestation of that stress, where you didn't want to kill this person, but she's dead now and you did it, so you adopt her personality.
I could definitely see that, or it could. I mean, maybe more of a wild left field theory, but maybe someone else comes and kills her, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm stressed. Someone else killed her. I have to
very well.
I have to create an alternate personality to keep her alive in some way." That kind of stress.
That death is still very suspicious.
And we still don't really know what happened. We know that Rion showed up and talked to him, and then we know that Sakamoto showed up at the end, and she was dead, and X was there. So
and he wouldn't say anything about it, and he was perfectly fine, like physically. So I have to assume that something happened there that wasn't like a conventional fight. But either way, this
ties everything together kind of perfectly.
Exit Takamura. What a cool character. It's a good way for him to go. Perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this feels the great thing about this is like Brandon Sanderson, I've brought this up in the past, says that your twists should be surprising but inevitable. And that feels like this because we are given all the hints, right? We know that X has developed a second personality, can act exactly like them, has their physical capabilities and their style and all that. We know that that's possible. We're given a flashback, which is, I think, a panel from another thing where they're talking about, to overcome extreme stress or shock experience, X could have created a new personality. It is, again, it's a surprise that this happened, but it makes total sense. It's totally inevitable. This is a great sort of twist surprise. Yeah, I like it a lot. This is good writing.
And this seems to be X's assassin superpower, which is because he gets the proficiencies of the personalities.
Right. He essentially emulates them 1-to-1 when he
and it's like immediately. Yeah, he got Takamura's personality and he's instantly proficient with the katana.
Yeah, and with the muttering and everything. So he is the sort of chameleon mirror type fighter where it's like, well, which this is okay.
PTSD Kakashi.
I don't know enough about Kakashi to know how that works.
He's like a copycat. Anyway.
Oh, okay. The exciting thing for this is my prediction looking forward, potentially, is that probably the most fun person to watch fight in Sakamoto Days is Sakamoto, in my opinion. He picks up wild stuff. He's fought with like a handrail on a train and, motorcycle and all these sort of wild things he's sort of used as weapons, used to fight. Potentially, we get X copying Sakamoto, and we get essentially Sakamoto versus Sakamoto, which would be maybe the best fight we've ever seen in any medium ever of all time. Like,
I'd love that. I'd love a fight that just fucking is like nonstop collateral damage to the city.
And picking up whatever they find at any time and clashing them against each other. That's something I don't know if that will happen. I hope it does. I don't know what the implications for the story necessarily would be there, but I think it would be interesting because usually the dynamic of Sakamoto fighting someone is one person has sort of a specific style, weapon, or thing, and then Sakamoto has, everything else in the world to use against it. So it would be very interesting to see what happens when two guys have literally every tool in the world at their disposal to be the sort of improv fighter. What happens? What does that fight look like?
That would be awesome.
I think it would be cool to see. So,
I want to know what X's deal is. What is your deal, bro? We still don't get it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I don't know because Rion shows up sometimes, and she seems to want different things than what X wants. So
well, that's because like it is a full emulation of Rion's personality in this
yeah,
given situation, and it's interesting. Like it's the same as Takamura here. I don't know after this chapter if X will still be on his teammate's side because of how the personalities work. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know. Yeah, I'm not
Like,
sure.
will he take Takamura's spot in trying to cut down everyone? You know,
I mean,
because
yeah,
he
he
has
could just
Takamura's
be.
orders.
Yeah, I do wonder. I wonder if because I we haven't really, I guess, been shown how easily he can slip between these personalities. Also, does having a third personality change it? How do you bring out the personalities again? We don't really know all this stuff.
We
So
don't know
yeah,
that.
he
Yeah,
could. You're absolutely right that he could just be stuck as Takamura now for a long time, and it's just yeah. And Takamura generally had, like you said, orders, but
yeah.
X doesn't have orders. So maybe Takamura can take orders from X, and that's kind of scary to think
I don't
about.
think it
So
works like that because
I'm not sure. Yeah,
Rion put out like the Rion personality put out a bounty on everyone, hoping that someone would kill X, which is counter to
that's
everything
true.
X wants,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
So I consistently I think if he's Takamura, then he will do whatever Takamura is motivated to do.
Yeah, which from what we've seen, the only thing that really motivates Takamura is his orders. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And I guess the other order, well, there was a news chapter this morning. We're recording this on Sunday, but there was a new chapter this morning that kind of tells what those orders are. So if you want, you should go check that out. Everyone should be reading Sakamoto Days. It's fucking
Oh,
great.
I haven't even read it yet, so I
Yeah, it's a little bit of fallout from this chat. It's the post game
got it.
recovery of this chapter, but yeah. So I'm super interested to see where this goes. This is a cool, in a world of crazy superpowered assassins, it's a cool thing to be able to just like, well, if you put him under enough stress, he takes your power, creates your personality, and kills you with your own stuff. So
I mean that's like very overpowered, but also like, damn, dude, I don't want that power.
yeah,
That
well, but
sucks.
it isn't. It it's a good power design because it isn't just it's X, but he takes all of your strength and all of your proficiency with the sword or all of your
Huge trade offs.
yeah.
Yeah.
The trade off is it creates a split personality, and that split personality doesn't want the same things that X wants, and that's like
Yeah.
a huge hindrance, which is awesome. That's how power
It's
should
very
work.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like the only reason, like his plan throughout the series would have gone off flawlessly if the Rian personality wasn't kicking up there, you know.
yeah, true. No, yeah,
So
for sure.
so far before this Takamura stuff, his split personality was just a negative, which I think is very cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Now he has one that's kind of like very positive fighting, potentially negative motivations, but yeah.
I think yeah, probably even more negative motivations because he's crazy now, right? He's muttering to himself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just don't really know anything about Takamura other than he's insane with a sword, like God mode with a sword, and
There was like a Takamura chapter, a side chapter, where he's equally crazy when he's lucid. He's like
oh
he cuts up all evil, like anyone he perceives as evil.
yeah,
Uh,
that might have been the one
so
shot because Suzuki also did a one shot that was essentially Takamura.
we might be talking about the same thing.
I think
it was just a
it is.
Takamura side story that I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't mention it. Is it this? No, it's in the 2 chapters ago. He sharpened his blade because somebody shot a gun at him, and he just runs the sword along the bullet. Sharpened.
Yeah, it's
I
so
had to bring
fucking
that up
cool.
because that's like the coolest shit I've ever seen.
That is
Um,
so dope. Yeah, I think every fight in Sakamoto is just so goddamn
It's so
good.
good. Yeah.
Like, there's no bad fight, and man, I can't wait to see the snipers again.
Yeah.
Their
Read the
fight
chapter
was like,
from today. So
oh, okay, awesome.
read the chapter
awesome.
from today. But yeah, that's it for manga. Let's bring on to news. We actually have a lot of news because we just got a lot of anime announcements. We got a lot of other stuff. We'll start with some bad news, I guess. Neko Kurage, who is the illustrator for Apothecary Diaries manga, pleaded guilty for tax evasion worth 47 million yen. It's about $300,000 US. The reports that I've seen have said that they have either paid it back or at least agreed to a payback or something. So, not sure if this is going to affect the manga or not.
Yeah. Everyone is evading taxes nowadays. It's a cool thing to do.
It's a weird. I was talking about this with some of my other friends, but it's like it's weird that there's just a lot of tax evasion in Japan. I think it's probably just they have like better enforcement, and so they're catching a lot of people with tax evasion. But we just don't catch that many people who evade taxes here in the States. I don't know.
Or maybe the process is just complicated or something. Who knows?
Taxes. Yeah, taxes could definitely just be more complicated over there. All right, some lighter news. Viz has licensed a bunch of stuff. For digital license, they licensed basically everything from the last 2 or so years that wasn't popular or canceled. So they've got Ginkan Luna, Doran, stuff like that. They got Ishigaki under control. So I mean, they just bought everything because if they even bought Ishigaki, they just chose it all. For physical, we got Dogs Red, Mujina Into the Deep, Ruri Dragon, and The Climber. That sounds great.
I forgot about Mujina Into the Deep. It's been a bit.
Yeah, I haven't really kept up with it. The sad thing about this is these are announced to be published in spring 2025, which means that for something like Ruri Dragon, they're essentially 3 years late to publishing Volume 1 of Ruri Dragon. And Dogs Red is on volume, I think we're 20 chapters in or so to Dogs Red, maybe 25. And we're not going to get, chapter 1 of that or volume 1 of that until spring next year. I get that it probably takes them a while to print these. I don't like it. It should not take so long. If something is popular and you want to bring people on board, like speed and like we have seen that simulpubs massively increase popularity of a series, right? Like the fact that stuff like Spy Family was simulpubbed made it massively popular in the West before, even the anime aired. And again, why does it take 2 years, 3 years to get volume 1 of a series that volume 1 of Ruri Dragon in Japan was published like September 2022, I think, and we're not going to get it until like March or April 2025. Like that's insane how long that takes. I don't know. I just don't like it. Like
it's just like it's a risk. It's a risk ultimately because everyone prefers to consume stuff online instead of physically.
Yeah, I mean, different people. A lot of people do prefer physical. There are some stories I prefer physically, but I'm generally pretty happy consuming stuff digitally. So,
I think that the problem, like, I think people even transition from physical to digital because they realize how much space they don't have in their living accommodations. At least for me, I just don't have space to put shit. Yeah.
Yeah, how expensive it is, and it's like because in Japan, one volume of a manga is like. I mean, that's like 600 yen, which for us now is like $4. And if I look at the manga I bought back there, I think every single one of those cost me $20 or like maybe 15 at best. And it's just like, it's just like way, way, way more expensive. So yeah, I still wish there was a way to publish stuff faster in English in the West and be a little bit braver about, oh, this is massively popular in Japan. When volume 1 hits, let's immediately, license it. Let's immediately publish it as fast as we can. Right? Like, even if it's just like 1 year late, right? Like if volume 1 of Ruri Dragon had come out like last year's summer, right? Like August last year, which would have been about a year after the first chapter of Ruri Dragon was actually published, even though it went on hiatus, obviously. Even a year delay is sort of like, oh, okay, you've got maybe 40 or 50 chapters of manga, and now I can start buying the volumes. They can bump out volumes fast and then slow down. But like, man, 3 years is insane. I don't know. It's frustrating.
I don't think it really matters for Ruri Dragon for what it's worth.
Ruri Dragon's a bad example, but I mean, for something like what was with the other things they did? Like
Dogs Red for sure.
Yeah, right? Like Dogs Red, right? Like that has been weekly published. That started
anything where you can forget the story and that matters. Ruri Dragon you can forget, but understand the basic vibes and read chapter 5 or 6 or 7 and be fine. But Dogs Red, if it's been 3 years, you'd have to start from the beginning. Either way, I more or less agree. It's just I kind of understand.
Yeah, cool that it's getting licensed. Cool that collectors or whoever can get it. Sad that it takes so long. All right, let's move on. Lots of anime stuff and anime adjacent stuff. We got a Batman Ninja sequel movie, Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League, officially announced. Hell yes. I have actually never seen Batman Ninja, but I need to go watch it. The English and the Japanese versions are two completely different movies, two completely different scripts from what I've heard. So, I don't know. I'm excited. I like Batman.
Yeah. I thought it was Batman Samurai.
I think it's called Batman Ninja, right?
Okay.
I think the original one was?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's called Batman Ninja. Yeah, Batman Ninja, 2018. So it's been a few years since we got the first one. But Attack on Titan the musical will play live on stage in New York in October. I'll be honest, I might go see that.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, man, but I like Attack on Titan, and to see a stage show, even if it's like goofy or insane or bad, like I don't know. Here's the thing: stuff that shows up on stage in New York City is generally not bad. Like you can go to almost any theater in New York City on Broadway, especially on Broadway, everything's going to be amazing. Off Broadway, even there's stuff is going to be still really good. So if it was like, oh, Attack on Titan musical comes to Minneapolis, I'd be like, okay, well that's going to suck. But it's in New York City, so I think it'll have some kind of quality to it. You'll have good performers. You'll have something. There will be some quality there. It's probably not going anywhere else. This might be your only chance to see it. So I legitimately might go see that.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think it'll be really cool to see the set pieces and like Wall Maria and
like
all
maybe
that
puppets
shit.
for the big, for like the Colossal Titan and stuff.
I can't even speculate. I have no fucking clue how this works.
Which is why I'm curious to see.
What are they singing about? Like,
I don't know.
Like how the walls fell. I don't know.
Maybe they're just singing the openings. Like the openings are pretty cool. So
I don't know. I mean, that's not even a musical then, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just like a concert at that point. I don't know.
Yep.
That's very strange to hear.
Yep.
But
okay. Right. Okay. Time for the big block of anime announcements. Let's start with the big one. Sakamoto Days will be receiving a spinoff titled Sakamoto Holidays in Psycho Jump. One of Sakamoto Days' assistants will be overseeing that. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Those characters are fun. It'll be fun to see them, just kind of relaxing.
I don't know. I'm not super interested. I find side stories. Yeah, spin-offs. Yeah. I feel the same way. I don't care about the spin-offs.
Yeah. Let's see. Dan Studio Science Saru announced that Dan will be 2-core. I think they said 2-core split. So we'll get.
Hell yeah.
Which is awesome. That's good. I think that means that we'll get pretty far. At least up through. We'll definitely get at least up through GG and maybe the introduction, maybe to do the Godzilla stuff. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think probably we end with GG's arc. That makes sense. That would make sense.
The first season ends with GG's arc would be my guess. Like the first 12 episodes. And then the next 12, I don't know how far we go. It's been...
Oh, true. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Either way, that's hype.
It is hype that we're getting more than... Because I think that people are... I think hopefully executives are catching on that like, yeah, because Frieren had 24, 25 episodes. Delicious in Dungeon had a 2-core thing. People just like it more. There's more to consume. There's more to get into it.
I like it more. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Oshinoko Season 2 was announced. Mashal Season 3 was announced. So we're getting those coming up later in the year.
Tight. That'll be awesome.
We got a new Ghost in the Shell anime announced, which is kind of a weird thing. Also by Science Saru, the group that's doing Dan to Dan. Yeah, I think they said that's going to be more manga adaptations, so I'm curious about that. I haven't ever checked out the Ghost in the Shell manga. So
I haven't consumed any Gits, so yeah.
That's right. You told me this, dude. You have to see the original movie.
It's very good, huh?
The original movie, it's like not that long. It's like 70 minutes or something.
Is that the one called Standalone Complex?
No, Standalone Complex is the anime. Which I watched some of. It's a little kind of episodic, slow, late 90s, early 2000s ish. I think it came out maybe in the year 2000. I watched some of it. It's good. It's definitely not bad. I don't remember much of it. I didn't finish it. But the original movie is like classic cyberpunk. Like it's like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Blade Runner. Like that's like the trifecta of like 90s, 80s, 90s Japanese.
So, okay, I did watch that movie with friends, but I slept until there were 15 minutes left.
Oh, so you saw like the robot fight at the end and it didn't make any sense, probably.
No, I woke up and there was someone talking about like science.
Yeah.
And then I went back to sleep. So does that count as watching it?
No.
Okay.
It is a very interesting, I mean, it is, I don't know if it's the first, it's definitely not the first. It is one of the original sort of asking the question of, if I upload my consciousness to the web and then that is put into another's body, am I a ghost in a shell or am I a real person? Like that's kind of the premise of the the whole thing. So
Oh, I love that. That's like so up my alley.
yeah, it's super, super cool. We got some rumors of a Gachiakuta anime adaptation. Nothing confirmed yet, no trailers, nothing from the author. I do think that's coming. Gachiakuta is pretty popular.
It's gotta.
Yeah, that's the trash thing. I need to catch up on that. I like read the first 50 or 60 chapters pretty religiously, and then I fell off it. So I need to go back and pick that up. And then the big one at the end here, Sakamoto Days anime announced. Yay!
Huzzah!
We got it. The director is Masaki Watanabe. Not a whole lot of really notable things that he's done. I looked through his MAL for things he's done, but he's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of directorial credits. Been working for 15, no, I guess almost 20 years now. This is by TMS Entertainment, which is a huge group. They're essentially tied to like every single Lupin the Third, every single Detective Conan movie series that's ever been. They also did Dr. Stone, so I think if you're looking for maybe a comparison in quality of animation, the team Dr. Stone is maybe thing to look at. And I think Dr. Stone looked pretty good for most of it. So,
Like it was fine. Like it was okay. I really hope that Sakamoto Days looks better than that.
yeah, this is. I mean, and we've talked about this in the past on the podcast. Sakamoto Days is going to be one of the most difficult things to adapt, just because of how it's all fights all the time. They're all super dynamic. They're all super different. They're all super creative, and that's like the series, right? Like we talk about there's some. It's plot and fights. Like the character stuff.
Yeah.
Like the characters are interesting, but there's not really like. Taro Sakamoto has not changed as a character in 200 chapters, in 170 chapters, right?
Yeah, you read for how creative the fights are.
You read
This
for the
is like
creative fights and the wild plot and the assassins v assassins. Like that's what the series is. So
you need creative cinematography and good action and choreography for like a John Wick movie, and without those, they would be bad movies. Similarly, Sakamoto the anime will live and die based on how these fights look.
yeah, and so we'll see. I hope it's good. I mean, Sakamoto Days is already like one of the. I think it's probably the biggest thing after like My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, those types of things. I think it's maybe like third in Jump and One Piece.
And what's nuts
Fourth in
is
One Piece,
it's gotten these sales with no anime support,
With no anime,
and that's crazy.
So
So,
they
I'm hoping they see the value there and try hard.
Yeah, and I do wonder if the reason it took so long is they were waiting for. I mean, like I said, TMS Entertainment as an animation studio seems to be large. Like I said, they're involved with every single Lupin the Third movie. Those all look really pretty good. All the Detective Conan movies and stuff, those have pretty high animation standards. So I think this might be sort of we found somebody with enough resources to really do it. So I hope
So.
I hope that's what we see.
I mean, it's too early to tell, but I hope so as well. And for what it is worth, the PV looked pretty good.
Yeah,
But
it did. So I'm hopeful. I again, it's going to be difficult. I hope they pull it off. It's going to be it has to be like One Punch Man season 1 levels. Is what it has to be.
yeah, I mean, and even if it's a little behind, that's fine. Like, but it has to be good, and we'll see from the first episode.
Yep. All right. That's it for news. Let's go to one more thing. Gautam, tell me what you've been doing or playing.
Yeah, so I got to where I needed to be in Elden Ring. So I've been playing Fire Emblem Engage. I love tactics games. They're so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Fire Emblem Engage is a very good tactics game with amazing gameplay and maybe the worst story.
Dude, Fire Emblem game stories are all bad.
Oh, well, this is worse than most.
It looked worse than most.
I played Awakening, which was like
Awakening's like the best one. That's the best one.
Yeah, it was like it had fun characters at least, right? And Three Houses, which had like a cool premise, a Hogwarts like magic school premise. Story was fine. It was okay.
Yeah.
Engage has like maybe the worst characters and the worst plot and the worst writing.
Which is sad because isn't this one based on like you can bring in characters from a bunch of other Fire Emblem games? Like that's Marth on the cover there.
Yeah, exactly. You can like summon them with like rings.
Yeah.
Which is like a play on words for Engage. But anyway.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. They never really talk about it. It's just that play on words that exists. But either way, it's like it's truly not good story-wise, but it is spectacular gameplay-wise if you like these types of games.
Yep.
So it's very fun, but maybe you skip the cutscenes or something. I don't know.
I mean, Fire Emblem games are like even the best Fire Emblem story is like still cringe. Like, it's just not. They're very
I-
simple, high fantasy. Royals are good, evil people bad. Like, it's all black and white. There's like, it's
But
very
at least
simple.
they establish some kind of motivation for the missions you do.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I feel like none of the missions motivations. I don't care about anything. Like I feel nothing when I play this game from a story perspective, but I do from a gameplay perspective, which is what matters.
They're great. Yeah, I love the Fire Emblem games. So cool.
Yeah.
I have been playing Mists of Pandaria Remix. Kind
What
of
is
finished it up, but so World of Warcraft, Mists of Pandaria, they essentially what they did is they kind of opened back up the expansion and are allowing you to level through just by doing quests and dungeons and stuff from Mists of Pandaria. But they give you this special cape that you can like attach a ton of stats to and extra experience. And so you'll do all these little things and it'll be like, oh, here's like, here's 1% crit. Here's an extra 5% experience from everything you do. Here's, 20 stamina. So it's just kind of this cool, like, power fantasy, get to go back through what, in my opinion, is the best story expansion that WoW has ever had. And it's fun. Yeah. And Miss Pandaria, I think for me is the best, the best story expansion, but also my main is in the regular game is a Brewmaster Monk who's a panda, so I'm a little biased. But yeah, I mean it's fun, lots of power stuff. Going through a lot.
This
of stuff.
isn't WoW Classic, right? This is like
no, this is technically so it is you are making a player on the live realms, but you're in this like remix. I don't know, it's called remix, but when you finish with it and when this sort of season of remix is over, that character is max level and they just become a regular level 70 max level character. So.
This kind of fucking genius where you bring people back and run through this nostalgic and fun content that you made, but also you don't take up much dev resources or anything like that.
Super,
it's just like
definitely
printing
super
money.
small team working on it. Yeah, it's smart in my opinion because we have seen, especially in the last couple of years, like re-releasing and remastering games is worth a lot of money. We got Dead Space, Final Fantasy VII. Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, just got re-released. There's money in that. But as a sort of live service game, how do you do that? And WoW has kind of struck the perfect balance, right? We've had WoW Classic. WoW Classic has, gone through the expansions. They're on Cataclysm Classic now. This MoP Remix, I think, is even better because it's basically just like a 90-day thing. You play through MoP, you get some power, you have some fun, and then you're done. And it's like, cool. And you got to go play through MoP. And I hope they do it for other expansions because a lot of other expansions had a lot of fun stuff about them. So.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. I wonder
good.
what happens once they're like starting to catch up though. They just reset back to WoW Classic.
I mean, essentially, yeah. Because the thing is, like, if there's just like, oh, there's a remix, Legion season, or yeah, we can just like remix Burning Crusade, and you get cool power, you do the quests. Because a lot of people like have never played. Like, I think of all of my friends in my guild, which there's like 14 or 15 people that we raid when the new raids are out and stuff. I think only like 2 of us played MoP when it was live. And so a bunch of people are getting to go back and do MoP and see how cool it is. So it's great.
Yeah, that's a good idea because you don't need to like it's actually discouraged to do the old dungeons and content because the quests level you faster, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
most people don't experience stuff from old expansions they haven't played.
And you can't see, even there is scaling in the game now, so you could go and level through Pandaria, but the problem is you don't level, like you'll out level it and then it's like, well, go to the new content. You don't get to see the whole story in Pandaria. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. That is the show, everybody. Thank you again for listening or watching. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comments, upvotes, thumbs up. If you're give an Apple Podcast review. We haven't gotten any of those yet. Those help, I've heard. Check out Twitter and Patreon, linked in the description. Thank you again for being with us this week. Don't forget to say goodbye, Gautam.
Goodbye, Gautam.
And don't forget to read more manga.